Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I love the sound in this room, actually. It just echoes like crazy. It's nice, it's warm, and there are fewer people than last time, which is sort of a good thing. But way to go. Good to see a big crowd last time. Okay, so as Daniel said, this is the newest collection of short stories. It came out about April. It's called Nobody Looks That Young Here. It's a collection of linked stories, mainly dealing with growing up in a small town. You see a lot of the same characters, same places, repeated over a few generations. Sometimes it's probably about 30 years within the book. Now, I was not too sure what I was going to read tonight, so I thought I would kind of walked in thinking I was going to read a story about a truck and poverty, but I also might like to read a story about a dog and misogyny. So I don't know if you guys want to vote.
That's a very tough choice, man. How long is each? How long is each?
How long is each?
Yeah.
They're about the same. So, I'm not sure. So basically, neither one of them's probably going to make you too happy. But it's short story collection. All right, I'm going to read a story called Eyesore. It's the one about the dog. And misogyny. We'll get there. We'll get there.
This story.
I don't know what that meant. All right, Eyesore. A few summers ago, it wandered up to my grandparents' farm, furs in its red and gold fur and stinking of pond water. It looked like a retriever or a collie to Grandma Ann, and she had a feeling it was older and female. It sniffed around the old barn while she yelled girls' names from the porch. It came running at Lucy, so that's what Grandma called her. Called it. When you write, you call a dog it. It would have been a fine name. It looked like an Addams Family cousin. But Grandpa Ralph, he had other names for Lucy, secret ones like bitch and cunt he used when Grandma was out of earshot. See, it's important she was a she. After Christmas last year, Grandma told Ralph she should never quit school to marry him. And she moved home to Edmonton. She met a Russian doctor with a collection of inoperative antique rifles on his walls there, but that's not what this story's about. It's 3:30 in the afternoon. I'm just off the bus from Curry High School, grade 9, and I barrel through the front door to answer the ringing phone. Mike, hi, it's your Grandpa Ralph. He starts every call this way. Never just Grandpa, never just Ralph. His next question is always the same too. Is your dad there? No, he's at work, I say. Grandpa Ralph says he'll call again later and hangs up. He's always forgetting that Dad's back on afternoons at Ritter Pulley Plant. His arm's swelling again and an MRI in London still a month away. Ralph forgets because to him at work it's all or nothing. He goes away for months at a time on the oil pipeline in Alberta. No one understands why he hasn't just moved there. Growing up in Curry Township's no reason to stay. Ralph's left every spring since before Dad was born and returned every fall when the ground out west is frozen. Finding children, now grandchildren, taller and tanned after spending the summer cutting grass and tending to his oversized garden and his fruit trees for the pickles and pears and apples and cherries Grandma Ann used to spend every August sealing in mason jars. A long time ago, before Dad quit drinking, he wobbled out to Ralph's in his roaring old Cutlass and started a boy named Sue fight about these summers. Grandma Ann screamed from the porch while father and son rolled in the dirt laneway like school kids, stopping only when Mom's Uncle Frank happened by in his trunk and broke it up. He loaded Dad into the box and drove him back to town, or so I heard years later. I didn't see it. I was asleep in my crib. Mom says that even Dad kicking in the screen door didn't wake me. Lucy. She started as an outdoor dog, but on cold winter nights, Grandma would open the back door and let her in, wiping the snow from her paws with an old towel. And even after Grandma left until the spring, Lucy spent most nights in the house where I would pat her belly and ruffle her fur as I lay beside her on Ralph's living room carpet, on my stomach with the newspaper's sports page spread in front of me while Ralph, in his recliner, ranted along with Coach's Corner, Dad agreeing from the couch. Since making his amends way back, before I started kindergarten, Dad's been Ralph's best friend. They go deer hunting every November, and in the winter they make me help cut wood for Ralph's stove, which means standing around in the bush behind his farm, freezing my toes while they run chainsaws and yell at me to pick up the logs and load them into the old wagon attached to Ralph's burgundy Massey Harris. As I scratched behind Lucy's ears on a Saturday night, just before the playoffs this year, Ralph said, "Be careful. You let a woman in once," but he trailed off. Dad laughed and then caught himself, as though he just remembered I was there. The bus from Curry Elementary trails blue oil-burning smoke as it passes the house, having just unloaded Nancy and some other kids at the Value Gas. When she gets home, we watch Weiner at 4 and make fun, and then it's The Simpsons rerun at 5 before we start on the chore list Mom always leaves. It's like a game, seeing how long we can put it off before we lunge across the finish line. Nancy's job is dishes and mine's the vacuuming. That's why I don't hear the kitchen phone ring. It startles me to see her in the doorway between the dining and living rooms, tears on her cheeks, under her glasses, and arms limp at her sides. Dishwater drips from her hands. What? I ask. What is it? Grandpa said I need you to be a secretary, she says, which is Ralph speak for take a message when someone's daughter picks up. He's going to work tonight, she starts. He called from the airport. She collapses into my chest, sobbing and unable to talk. The pipeline's so dangerous it has to pay well. No one would take the jobs otherwise. Ralph's cheated death for more than 30 years. He has the money to retire. He's barely 50. His whimpering secretary is 10 and a half. He can't keep Lucy, she blubbers. He said to remind Dad to, she sniffs, to shoot her and bury her behind the shed. Louder sobs and a widening wet patch on my t-shirt. I hug her close to me. The rug stays half vacuumed, the dishwater goes cold, and a minute later we hear Mom's brown Buick crunch to the laneway gravel. Its engine dies, her keys jingle, the door opens. She looks at the vacuum, its hoses still strewn about. She adjusts her glasses and eyes me, then Nancy, then me again. When her chores aren't finished, she knows why. She sighs, what were you fighting about? She's been working at the bakery since early this morning. Her curly blonde hair is frizzing and purple bags underline her wire rims. We weren't fighting, I say, and because we didn't chorus nothing, Mom believes us. Nancy on the couch now looks down at our car. I'm sorry, failed that one. Nancy on the couch now looks down at our cat. Very different, right? Nancy on the couch now looks down at our cat, nestled in front of her under the coffee table. She jumps to her feet and breaks for her bedroom down the hall. I explain to Mom in the shortest way possible. Nancy starts crying again anyway. I don't think so, Mom replies. I don't think so. She turns back to the door where her keys are still in the lock. She removes them. Nancy will be right back, she says. Put on your shoes, Michael. Until Ralph had it torn down 4 years ago, Lucy lived inside the old barn. After dinner every night, Grandma would walk up the laneway with 2 small Rubbermaids, one filled with Lucy's food and the other with chow for the umpteen stray cats that came and went and often left kittens. Ralph complained about how much Grandma spent on kibble and threatened to drown the cats, for their own sake, he said. But after the demolition crew finished, he and Dad cut up the timbers and filled in the pond where I learned to fish and skate. Whole Curry Township generations played shinny here, dawn to dusk on weekends. The cats have run off now, and there's just more grass for someone to cut, me, for $100 a summer. Dad calls out west if I miss even one Sunday, saying, we can't have it looking like an eyesore. And then Ralph says the same to me a day or two later, over the phone from someplace with a name like Carrot Creek. Ralph paid for laneway years ago, just after Dad moved out. He tore down the house my great-grandfather had built way back when the barn held cattle. He replaced the house with sprawling 1-story, 3 bathrooms, 4 bedrooms, and now only him to sleep there. The barn made way for the aluminum drive shed where the Winnebago he and Grandma were going to buy. But it sits mostly empty now, always locked. The whole property looks modern except for the doghouse, which Ralph says Grandma insisted on buying for summers when Lucy lived outside. The rusty tin roof makes me think that he got it secondhand and probably at the Curry Township dump. This eyesore must not count. The dog barks as we drive in and pulls a chain taut from its steel stake. Mom nudges the car along the laneway. As we round the loop that circles the drive shed, we see the metallic green nose of Dad's Cutlass peeking out from behind. It's still strange to see the car anywhere but on our lawn. After selling the truck, Dad and his brother Richard spent a whole year of weekends redoing the muscle car's brakes, suspension, exhaust, and finally the stubborn wires and fuses they tested one at a time, trying to make the turn signals work. I was pulled away from my homework a few times to learn something important, like how an alternator works. But really all I learned is how to hand Dad tools and pretend I didn't hear him swearing under his breath. What's stranger still is it's after 6, nearly dusk. That car should be at the Ritter plant. The shed door squeals on its runners and Dad steps out in his work blues, cradling his favorite gun, a banged-up Winchester 270. When I was little, he'd tell me stories about shooting squirrels and rabbits and raccoons, then selling their pelts on the reserve. Mom's told me since he was selling them by liquor, that he was hunting without a license, and that he traded an expensive, brand new and legal .22 for this over-caliber rifle he keeps dead bolted in the gray steel cabinet in Ralph's shed, plus a 4-year rye. The bottle rode shotgun the night he drove out to fight Ralph. She's never said where the rifle was then, but she's never let Dad keep it at home. Mom's shoulders open her door and yells, John. Dad jumps. It surprises me the gun doesn't go off. Dad turns to look at her, adjusting his ball cap. Behind his safety glasses, his brown eyes grow wide. His mouth forms a straight line, corners edging south in a preemptive frown. He's been caught. We know the look well. What are you doing, Mom calls. Dad points the muzzle at the ground and steps towards us. I'm just doing Ralph a favor. He uses Grandpa's first name now that they're friends. I called work, he says. They know I'm coming late. John, Mom repeats, what are you doing? I kneel beside Lucy's house and unclasp the chain from her collar. She takes off running, fast for a dog this old. Past Dad toward the bush. He sees me for the first time and abandons the look. Mike, he says, what are you doing here? Mom asked you first, I said. Dad shrugs. Ralph can't keep the thing. He turns his back to us and swiftly lifts the rifle. Same treatment at the pound. I cover my ears and close my eyes as Dad aims into the distance. I wait. No bang. I open again to see Dad's lips muttering as he lowers the gun. He stalks off toward the shed. I take my hands off my ears and listen to him removing the bullets from the rifle, clunking the steel cabinet lock. He stomps outside and launches the sliding door shut, fuming toward the cutlass. He gets in and slams, growling the muscle car to life, peeling out at the end of the laneway and turning toward Curry. Mom looks at the tire marks in the cement and shakes her head. Your grandfather will be thrilled with that, she says. And we walk back from the shed to Lucy's doghouse. I take one side, Mom the other, and we lift the creaky structure into Buick's trunk. As I tie the lid closed, fur brushes the back of my legs. Lucy sniffs me with her dry nose. Ralph had left her water empty, no point in filling it. She jumps on the upholstery when I open the back door. I sit beside her and dodge as she tries to lick my face. Her breath smells like a long dead fish, dug out from where the pond used to be. Thanks so much.